Okay, we start doing this planning for capital investments. Why do we need the capital investments? Obviously, we need the capital investments to generate revenue in the long term. For that reason, we have to find a way how to evaluate those investments and how we can get, how can we make the best decision. So for the capital investments, we're going to use tools and techniques which will help the company to evaluate the option. Now the options will be either to purchase new asset, either to replace the existing asset, either to purchase long-term investment. So at least once a year, obviously, the company have to go through all the projects proposals to examine the capital budget. Those has to be examined by capital budget committee. Managers and directors and officers have to determine which projects actually worth funding, and the upper management have to approve those capital budgets. So the company know what they're purchasing, when they're purchasing, and how we're gonna purchase it. Before we make the capital decisions, obviously we have to check if do we have available capital. What's the relationship between the proposals? We have to use the basic decision-making approach, which will be cost versus benefits. And we have to evaluate the level of risk with every single project. Once we're making the capital decisions, we have to consider, in every capital decision, we have to consider the cash coming in and cash going out for each of those decisions. So from where the cash gonna come when we're making capital decisions? First stream of cash is if we can sell the old machine, if we have to replace the old equipment, or if we can sell the investment. Second stream of cash can come from the increase of revenue from customers. Third stream of cash can come from a reduction of the operating cost. And the last stream of cash that we have to consider is if there are any residual or salvage value at the end of the life of the capital asset that we just purchased. Then we have to consider the outflows. We have one main outflow, which will be the purchase price of the machine or the purchase price of the investment. We have to consider the increase in operating costs if there's any operating cost increase. Also, we have to consider any repair and maintenance related to the new asset. And the last thing that we have to consider is the overhaul of the equipment. Overhaul the equipment simply will be any renovations and anything that we have to do with the new equipment. So, if we have to evaluate the project for which we have to invest $130,000 over 10, which expect that initial investment to last for 10 years, that investment is going to give us revenue from the customers for $200,000. Operating cost will be 176, so the net annual cash flow coming in is going to be $24,000. Which are the technique that we can use to evaluate this project? Well, we have two techniques. One is the cash payback method, and the other one is the net present value. Cash payback method, we saw it in the class, and I told you this will be the method that I'm gonna test you on only. And what we have to do, we have to identify how long it takes to recover the initial investment from the cash that we're gonna receive for this project. It's very simple formula. We're getting the initial investment as a nominator, annual cash inflow as a denominator, and we simply calculating how long it's going to take us to recover the initial investment. In this case, Since investment $130,000 and the annual cash inflow at $24,000 is going to take us 4.42 years to recover the initial investment. And if the company has cash payback method 6 years, then this project is acceptable by this company. This is when this is when we have equal cash payments. What's going to happen if we have unequal cash flows every year? Well, obviously, it's not always going to be the same amount. In fact, you'll be tested on the unequal cash flow. So for unequal cash flow, what you have to do is simply you have to do one Excel spreadsheet, and that's gonna run your I can show you quickly, and that's gonna show you your running totals. Obviously, on the test you won't be able to do that because you have to do it by hand. But if you have to use if you have to use the Excel spreadsheet, it's very simple. You break it by year one, year two. Let me share my screen with you, and you can see it. You can break it by years and see first objective is we have only 5 years. Now you see on which year you're kind of reaching your target, which target here is $300,000. And once you reach your target, then you have to see on the next year after, on the year that you're reaching actually the target, how much the portion of that year that takes to recover the initial investment. And initial investment for us is 300,000. Actually, I'm going to put this one right here, and then we're going to start the remaining 300. And then we can run the remaining, how much is left until we recover it. That will be equal to that one. And remaining, it's going to stay here, and remaining always going to run the calculation between initial investment minus what's happened, and the initial investment always going to be $300,000. Obviously, in the remaining is going to start going down year by year. It's going to be this one minus that one. And you can see on at the end of the second year, we have 150 remaining, and the third year, we have the 60,000 remaining. Obviously, we're gonna recover our cash in year 4. So that means we need 3 full years. Now the question is on the year that we're recovering, that's 3 years for sure. Now the question is, when in the 4th year we're recovering our investment, and we simply said that we're gonna get, because on the 4th year we have to recover only $60,000 on the last year. So the question is, those $60,000, $60,000 we're recovering meant to recover at the beginning of the 4th year, and during the 4th year we recover 120,000. So technically, it takes us exactly half year to recover that one, and that's half is going to be the portion or the fraction of the year that we need to recover our investment. And that's how you can do it by yourself, or that's how you should do it on the last test that's coming. Let's go back to slides now. And during the slides, that's going to be exactly the same. They start accumulating the cash. I'm going the other opposite way. But anyway, the result will be the same. So you're gonna have 3.5 years to recover your initial investment. Which are the positive of using this method? Which are the negative? Positive is useful as an initial screening tool. Fairly easy to calculate and understand. And also it can be most critical factor in the capital decisions since it's easy for the people to understand how much it takes to recover their cash since the cash is more sensitive thing. Against this method, there should not be only basis for the decisions because they ignore the cash that's coming after the payback period. Also ignores time value of the money. So for those reasons, we can move to another one. We already did this question, and we identified the time period required to recover the investment is the correct answer. And we did this one in the classroom, but I can easily redo it here for you. For those of you who haven't chance to understand it during the class. So what we have to do is just simply flip this one here, paste the question, and change the numbers, and we're gonna get what we want. So basically here we have here the year 4, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So I have to add 2 more years. I'm gonna unfill this one and unfill that one as well. And I'm gonna change the cash flow, the first. So first our investment is $10,000, 100,000. So in this case, we're ignoring the how much can be sold. We're just going to the expected cash flow, which is 21,000. First one, second one, years we have 25,000. Third year we're recovering. Third year we're having 30,000. The fourth year we're having 26,000, and the fifth year 26,000. So actually no, the first two loss in the first 2 years 21 and 21,000 here. The third year is 25,000. Then we have 30,000 in year 4, and then we have 26,000 here and 26,000 here. Now the question is, in which year we're reaching what we need to get. So let's run the calculation here. Obviously, we getting it on year 4. It takes us definitely 4 full years to recover our investment, and in year 5, we actually meeting the initial investment. So how much we need to recover? Only 3,000. So we put in that 3,000, that become 3,000, and our investment is 100,000. So it's gonna take us 3 divided by 26,000 here. The 26 that we get in the last year is gonna give us the fraction of 0.12, and we have 4 years. So it's how long it's gonna take us? 4 years and 12 recover our initial investment in this case. So that's how this question is done. Let's go back to the slides. Now, at this point, we're going to start considering time value of the money. And for the time value of the money, we need to understand that the dollar today is worth more than dollar tomorrow. That means if we receive more dollars tomorrow, today they're worth less money. In order to do that, we have to use some discounted cash method. Once it says discounted cash method, means that we're using the discount percentage. Discount percentage is the percentage that we're using to consider time value of the money. So we are going to have two methods, cash flow methods. One is net present value, the other one is the internal rate of return. The net present value method is generally recognizing the best conceptual approach. This is the best conceptual approach since considered time value of the money. And under net present value method, cash inflows are discounted to their present value and then compared with the capital outlay required for the investment. So I want you to understand which is the positive and negative on the net present value, even though they're not clearly discussed, or we may see later, but I want you to know those one as well, because those will be tested. The interest rate, which we're using to discount the future cash flow, that in a way is the required minimum rate of return. Now, there are three options for the net present value when we do calculations. Option one is the net present value to be zero, means the project will earn the return which equal to the minimum rate of return, which we're using to discount our cash flow. It can be positive, means the project will earn more than the minimum rate of return, which is used as a discount percentage for our flow. And the negative, which means the project is not going to reach the return, a required rate of return, which is our discounted rate. And again, decision tree. And again, remember always what I told you. Don't go blind with this one. Don't follow blindly the rules. Open your mind and evaluate the project. So in this case, cash flow that we have to consider comes from two parts. First, we have ordinary annuity, which will be the payments, or that will be ordinary to annuity will be the cash flow payment that we have to pay at the end of the project, or some cash might come at the end of the project, and the other cash will be the cash that's happened at the beginning of the period. Unequal cash flows will be when we have salvage value of the asset or series of cash flow, which is different from each period. Now, to calculate the present value, we need few things. First, we need amount of each payment, number of the payment, minimum rate of return or discounted rate of return, and ordinary annuity table or calculator, which you use in the last class. So what we're going to do with that, this is if you're using the table, once you have the number of the payments, and once you check the rate of return, you can use it in the table where the period is 9, interest rate is 6, and you can go the fraction that you have to use in order to calculate the future value. This one. And the second, and once you apply this amount, you're gonna see how much is the present value of the amount of payment of amount $1,400 after 9 years. That will be one option to do it. So let's see this one example. Let's take the example here. In our initial investment, as you remember, is $130,000. We get $24,000 equal cash every single year, put over 10 years, discounted at 12%. Now the question is, what's the value of those 24,000 every single year after year for the next 10 years, discounted at 12% today? How much is the present value? We're using the factor here, 5.65, applying it, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the 24,000 times 5.65, and we're gonna get the number. That's one way to do it, using the table. Now, not all the time you're gonna have the table. Probably the tool that you're gonna have will be your cell phone. So if you have to use your cell phone, you can use the financial calculator. The other option is you to use the Excel spreadsheet. I'm gonna show you on the Excel spreadsheet. And if you want, I can show you on the calculator when we are in class. So what we have to do is I'm going to open a new here worksheet, and it's just quickly going to show you how this one is done. So once you have the information, what you have to do is initial investment is it's at today, how much you're spending today. Usually that is today, and usually that's the outflow. That you see your cash outflow. Once we have the cash outflow, now we're going to start chasing what's the inflow. Today we have to spend $130,000. Now the inflow in this case will be the payments. That will be annual payments of $24,000 that we're going to receive every year. Then we're going to have periods, and we're going to get those over 10 years. And then we're going to have periods in years. Annual payments, obviously, that will be in dollar amounts. And then we're going to have a discount rate, which in this case can be a required rate of return or can be internal rate of return. Either way, will be a required rate of return is going to be that, or going to be internal rate of return, either one of those. And can be something else. But in this case, that will be measured in the percentage. Measure as a percentage. So once we have this information, the 24,000 will going to be our PMT payments. The periods will be N for the calculated purpose, and the interest will be I/Y. And at this case, we have to calculate the present value. How much is the present value of this annual payment? 10 annual payments of $24,000, and we're using 12% discount. What we can do is we can use the formulas here. We're going to go to the financial function, and we're going to scroll down to see present value. Once we calculate the present value is going to see return on the present value of the investment, the total amount that series of future payment is worth now. We're going to use this function. First, going to ask us for rate. So our rate will be the interest rate, the discounted rate that we're using. Then we're going to ask us for N period. That is the total number of the payments period of the investment. So we total going to get, in total, we're going to get 10 payments. What's the amount of the payment here? That payment is $24,000. Is there any future value that's going to come? In this case, there's nothing, because the salvage value, if you remember here, was 0. What type of investment is we getting the cash at the end of the period, so we're not going to enter anything here. And once we click, we're going to get the present value of this amount. Now we're getting here negative because the payments, since this one consider the cash as an outflow. In this case, we're getting the inflow. So today it's going to cost us, those 25,000 is going to worth $135,000. So what we can make it positive, we just enter minus in front, and that's the net present value. That's $24,000. Again, if you remember from the question, the salvage value was 0. So let's enter the salvage value here somewhere so we can use this calculation for the future purposes. In this case, that also is measured in dollar amount at 0, and the salvage value will be In this case, our salvage value is the future value that we have. But the future value in this case is 0. And we get the present value, which is equal to $135,000. So the question now is, what's the net present value? Well, if this is the cash that's coming in, where is the cash going out? Cash going out is equal to, we have to pay $130,000 today. So the net present value of this investment is going to be equal to minus 30,000 is going to be, so that will be, sorry, why it doesn't work? Yeah, because it has to be positive plus. It's going to be $5,605 in our case. So what that means? That means this project is going to reach the return that we want, or we're using as a discounted rate, which in this case is 12%. So with this project, you're going to reach the 12%. In fact, you're going to get more than 12%. How much more you're going to get than 12%? Well, we have to play a little bit with formula and to see at which point the net present value becomes 0. So if you want, what we can do here is after we have the initial calculation, we can start playing with the numbers. In order to do that, I'm going to change this a little bit to add the future value so you can see what's the effect on the future value as well. Again, formulas, financial calculator is going to go to the present value here. And we're going to use the rate is the 12%, number of periods 10, payments is 24,000. I can enter this payments here. Right now it's a negative. Future value is 0. So our present value is 135,605. So now the question is, what's the discounted rate that's going to bring this amount to 0? That's what we're chasing here. And at this point, we can just start guessing. Obviously, it's more than 12%. So let's see if this is 30%. Definitely it's 13%. 30% in a little. So how much will be 13.10? I guess that's too much. So it's going to be somewhere around 0.5. Somewhere in that range, even less than that. 0.4. 0. I mean, now I have to start playing with the numbers here to see exactly on which point we're reaching the 0 point. So the actual rate that the rate that this project is going to give us as a return is going to be 3.44 maybe. Yeah, 44.1 or something like that. So we're getting, so you see how easily we're getting close to what we want. And we can play this one until we find the actual where exactly is 0. That's too much now. So 22. It's going to be, this is the perfect situation. That will be the interest rate that's going to bring us to 0. 13.4% is the actual return for this investment. That's how you can play with the numbers. So let's go back to slides now. So if we have to use the table, we're going to get that the net present value is $5,604. $5,605 means that the project is acceptable because it reached the 12% return. In fact, reaching 13.4%. So how are we going to get that one? I mean, obviously, in this case, we have to use the table, and from the table, we can get the closest fraction, and we're going to see which one is it. Now, what's going to happen if the project has unequal cash flow? In our case, was when the project has equal cash flow. When it has unequal cash flow for every single year, we have to calculate the present value. So in this case, we have, if we have this information, now we have to find out how much is the value of every single each of those amounts. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to move back to the Excel spreadsheet. This is a little bit more heavy calculation in terms of we have to repeat this one 3 times if we're using the financial function on the Excel spreadsheet. So we can build on this and we can move to the next one. So as you can see here, we have to do some adjustments. So again, we have 3 cash flows. So I have to get this formula 3 times. That's 1. That will be second time, delete here. And I have to get one more time right here. Or I can use it side by side. Let's use it side by side so we can see it only on one place. Gonna get rid of this first. We don't need this one. This is our question here. We have the cash flow, so the cash out. We don't need this cash out yet.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Your screen is not sharing with us.
not sharing yet. Here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know. So we have the cash, the first cash year one, and then we're gonna have cash year 2, and we're gonna have cash year 3. Some adjustments here. Yeah, we lost it somewhere. Let's make some adjustments so you can see it on one screen. Okay. So what we have to do is now we have to do this calculation 3 times. And obviously the interest rate is going to be the same. It's going to be always 6% here, 6% here, and 6% here. Now what's going to change? It's going to change the amount. First year we have $6,500. Year 2 we have different amount, so we have to consider that amount. That will be $4,000. And year 3, in year 3, and the cash inflow is $3,800. Then the next thing that we have to change is the periods. First we have one year, and the second we have 2 years, and the third one we have 3 years. So you can see for the end of at the end of the year, if the discounted rate is 6%, those 6,500 at the beginning of the year worth 6,132 at the end of the year. That will be too much here, so there's something wrong. That's an annual payment, but this is only one-time payment. So I have to change a little bit in the formula. This is not the annual payment, this actually is the future payment. That will be the future value at the end of the year. So the annual payment, we're not receiving payments regular payments every year after year after year. Here, you're assuming that we receive 2 payments of 4,000, which we're not receiving 2 payments 4,000. We're receiving one full payment at the end of the year. That will be future value, aka payment of year end. And at the end of the year, we're going to get here 4,000. And you have to change this one here to be this one and this one to be all the same. So the annual, we're not getting any annual payments in terms of money, equal amount of money every period. So that reason that will be 0. But the future payment here will be at the end of the second year, we're going to get $4,000. And at the end of the third year, we're going to get $3,800. So now we can see at the end of the first year, we're going to 6,500. So we can see the value at the end of, what's the today value of 6,500, which we're going to receive at the end of the first year. What's today's value of the 4,000 that we're going to receive at the end of the second year? And how much is the value of the 3,800 that we're going to receive 3 years from now today, if the inflation is 6%. So in this case, I don't know how much is my initial investment, probably that's different, but the total amount of my inflows will gonna be the first year cash that I'm getting the first year, cash that I'm getting the second year, plus the cash that I'm getting the third year. So in total, of those payments, if I receive year one, year one, year two, and year three, and if I receive the first year, I'm receiving 6,500, sorry, 6,500. Second year, I'm receiving 4,000, and the third year, 3,800. In total, we're receiving amount of $14,300. So the value of those 14,300 today is only 12,882.61. If our discounted rate or if the return that we want is 6%. That's basically how we're getting the present value using the financial calculator into Excel spreadsheet. So this is the example again with when we have value every each year, which is different, the same discount rate every year, but that we're going to show you at the end of the year how much is the value of those 34, and keep going, keep going.
Professor,
Yes.
how would we say that the annual income that they given us, this is the future values?
Sorry.
You said that this is the future value,
Yes.
right? This is not an annual income. That
No.
how can we guess that this is the future values?
You don't have to guess. In this case, we're gonna be simply say in the question. So in the question, first one, as you can see, the question says that here we have consistent annual cash inflow. Correct?
Yes, Professor.
And in the other case, it says you have at year one cash flow 6,500, at year two 4,000, at year three 3,000. Is those annual payments? They're annual payments, but are they same? They're not. So for that reason, you're treating each of those payments as the payment at the end of the year. So what you're trying to find out is what's the value of 6,500, which is received 1 year from now? What's the value of the 4,000 received 2 years from now? Make sense?
Okay. Yes,
Now,
Professor.
Now, if in this case you're doing exactly the same, but the things that help you here is that those $24,000 you're getting the same amount every year. So first, what you have to do is technically what you have to do here, in order to get the same amount, you can do it year by year by using the future value. You can do the same here, the same thing here. But what you have to do, 10 calculations, because first you're going to find out what's the $24,000 worth today if you receive it at the end of the year. Then you're going to find what's the $24,000 received today, uh, value today if you receive it at the end of the second year. Then you're going to see what's the present value of the $24,000 received 3 years from now, and 4 years from now, and 5 years from now. Make sense?
Yes.
And if you combine those, if you do the thing here 10 times, by using 24,000 as a future, you're going to get exactly the same amount.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
If you want, I can show you here, very simple. So let's see, this is the one calculation. In this calculation, we're getting 35, 605. So let's see if we can get this number the way I told you. Delete this one and let's make it a little bit smaller. And then we're gonna have this calculation 10 times. 1, 2, then we're gonna have 3 times here. So what I'm gonna change once I start doing this calculation, this one will disappear, that will be 0, and then we're gonna have 24,000. But that will be 1 year from now. Then I'm gonna have 24,000, but that will be 2 years from now. Discount rate will be 12, always 12. Then I'm gonna give, that will be 0, that will be 12. Then we're gonna, sorry, that will be now 3, that's year 3. That will be 12%, and that will be 24,000. Then I'm gonna have this 3 more times. That make it 6. That will be year 4. That will be year 5. That will be year 6. And then 3 more times. That will be year 7. That will be year 8. That will be year 9. And 1 more time. And that will be year 10. So what I have to do is the total horizon value. In this case will be value in year 1 only plus year 2 plus year 3 plus year 4 plus year 5 plus year 6 plus year 7 plus year 8 plus year 9 plus year 10. And the total is 135. Is it the same total?
Yes, Professor.
It is exactly the same total, right? So, but as you can see here in this foremost in simplicity, we're using the annual payments because the payment of $24,000 hasn't changed. Now we have to change it here in order to say salvage value should say the future value, which is received at the end of the year. That should be this way.
Okay.
And that the whole thing now makes sense, right?
Yeah, now I get it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's the whole idea is to you to understand what we're doing. Okay, let's go back to the slides. And again, for this project, since they have $144,000 present value, and if the initial investment $130, then we can see how much is it. So what we can do in this case is we can use the same thing that we did, but we can easily change now the numbers in our calculation. So we can use this one to calculate our original question when we have $130,000 original investment. Let me pay, no, that will be not the one. Oh, this one they're asking for Excel spreadsheet, so let's paste it here as Excel spreadsheet. So if we have those payments year by year, as you can see, now what I can do is I can simply make it this one payment in the first year to equal to 34,000. This will be equal to 30,000. This will be equal to 27,000. Next year will be equal to year 4, 25,000. Sorry, that will be, no, not that one. Sorry, wrong place. That will be equal to year 4, 25,000. Then the next year is going to be equal to 4,000. Then the next year is going to be equal to 22,000. Year 7 is going to be equal to 21,000. Year end 8 will be equal to 20,000. Year 9 is going to be equal to 19,000, and the last year is gonna be equal to 18,000. So once I calculate all those ones, I'm gonna get 144,367. So you can see now the total value. So if we receive only and only $24,000 every year, year by year, we're gonna get sorry, not that one. I wanted to paste it like this. If we
So,
receive
Professor,
yes,
your screen is not visible to us.
no, how about now? So this is the calculation. Okay, so this is the calculation. If you have those annual payments year after year after year, and if we use the same thing that we used for the previous case, so what we have to do is we have to change the future value of the payments that we're going to receive at the end of each year. First year we receive 34,000, second year 30,000, third year 27,000, the fourth year 25,000, then we receive 24,000, then we receive 22,000, then we receive 21, 20, 19, and 18. So in total we receive 240,000. Right? We received exactly the same amount, 124,000. But the thing is, we get in here 24,000 as a different amount each year. Here we're receiving 24,000 as a lump sum, at the same amount at the end of each year. Which one's going to give us higher return? Obviously, the second option is going to give us higher return. In the first case, our net present value will be 5,605. In the second case, our present value will be, in this case, will be equal to 130,000, negative 130,000. In this case, our net present value will be 14,367. So that's the huge difference between one and the other. When we have payments, again, if we have only 24,000 each year versus different amounts year over year, we have $9,000 difference. So basically, in the second case, in this case, our internal rate of return is going to be our rate of return that we're going to get from this project will be a way higher than the first case. So let's move now to the next one. Let's try to do this question now. Now, in order to do this question, what I can do is I can actually send you the Excel spreadsheet that I'm currently using, and you can use it for a calculation here for this question. Just give me a second. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to send you email with this Excel spreadsheet. Okay, I send you email, so now you can open the Excel spreadsheet and you can work on the Excel spreadsheet if you want to use it. Again, the Excel spreadsheet is active, so you can use it for the purpose of calculation of this question. So how we can use it? We can obviously copy the question, see where we are. We have over life of the 6 years. And the machine will generate net cash inflow 21,500 each year for the next 6 years. So that will be, and at the end of the first and the end of the 6th year can be sold for $8,000. So for the purpose of this question, we can use the Excel spreadsheet, but which one exactly we're gonna use? We're gonna use our calculation for the option 3. When you see the question 3, you can use that option and flip it as that will be the new question here. We can post that information from the new question like this, and now we can start working. So what we have today, we have to spend $100,000. We're gonna receive 21,500 for the next 6 years. Our discount rate is 5%, and we have a salvage value, which we're gonna get 8,000 at the end of the 6 years. So the question here is how much is the present value? Well, in this case, the present value, let's get rid of this. I don't need this one. You can easily eliminate it as well. So now we have the whole information, how much we're getting year after year after year. Each year we have the same amount, so we can use this formula as annual payment. We have the period, so we're going to get it over 6 years. We have the discount rate, which is 5%, and we have the salvage value, which we can get from the machine, $8,000, but we're going to get those 8,000 at the end of the 6th year. So basically what we have to do is find out how much is the value 21,000 we received at the end of the first year today, 21,500 received at the second year today, and keep going, that's 6 times, plus 8,000, which we're going to receive at the end of the 6th year. How much is the present value? Again, we can use here the financial. We're going to go to the PV, which is the present value in this case. Once we get to the present value, what we have to do is filling the gaps. Rate is our interest rate. Number of period is 6. Payment is 21,500. Future value, so the payment entered as a negative, and the future value also entered the negative. So you can see the total as a positive amount. Future value negative $8,000. So how much this gonna worth? That's gonna worth 115,097 will be the present value. As how much will be the net present value for this project? Now the net present value for this project will be 15,097. So our answer here will be B. And that's how you're solving those type of questions. Were you guys able to use the Excel spreadsheet that I sent you? Guys, were you able to use this Excel spreadsheet or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Did you get the same what I get?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So let's move on. Let's move to this present value. It's interesting calculation. The only thing is you to understand it and to know how to use the Excel spreadsheet for that one, because most likely you're going to have Excel spreadsheet with you. How are we going to choose the discount rate? Well, that will be the key here, because that discount rate here in this formula is going to change the entire picture, isn't it? If you think closely. So what can go? I mean, obviously the interest rate. Once we increase the interest rate, what's going to happen with the present value with when we starting the increasing the interest rate? What do you think?
It decreases.
It decreases. The present value is going to go down. So let's see if that's true. If we increase the interest rate to 6%, the present value goes down. If we go to 7%, go down. If we go to 8%, goes down. If you go with 9%, goes down. If you go to 10%, goes down. Actually, it went negative. So what that means? If we're using the 10% discount, what this mean for us for this project? Simply means that the project's not gonna reach the 10% discount rate. It's gonna be less than 10%. If we're using 9%, it's gonna say, okay, the project definitely reaching 9% return. Most likely it's gonna be more, but definitely it's more than 9%. Is it 10%? No, it's not 10%. It's somewhere in the middle. 9.4 will be the right, probably. Yeah, around that range, 9.4, 9.3, 3.8, something like that. Make sense? So what changing the whole calculation for the net present value? The discounted rate. This is the key here. That's why it's important we to understand from where did we get this discount rate. What is our discount rate? Because the discount rate is the key here that changes the net present value. Higher percentage, lower present value. Lower percentage, high present value. The question is where the present value is zero. Because if the present value is zero, that means you're gonna reach this return or you're gonna reach your discount rate. So the cost of the capital, it can be the discount rate, which is the weighted average rate of the money that you borrow plus the money that the investor paid. Now the discount rate is also going to be called hurdle rate. It's going to be called required rate of return. It's going to be called cutoff rate. And discount rate will be consideration of the discount rate. When the discount rate increase, we saw that net present value decrease. If the discount rate increase in the perceived risk of the project increases, obviously if we're increasing the rate, now we have more risk. And we also have to consider this thing, what if something happened, what we're gonna do. So now if to make it simply, we also always consider all cash flow come at the end of the year. Only ordinary annuity are used, money that are equally actually receive only at one time and one time of the period, at the end of the period. All the cash flow received during the current project are immediately reinvested. And all the cash flow can be predicted with exact certainty. If one of those is not in place, then our calculations will be wrong. The other simple assumptions that we're making here is the project results are estimated that are based on the forecaster belief about most likely that's what's most likely happen. Now, obviously, we have to do our sensitivity analysis in order to see what will be the effect if something small changes. So tell me, what do you think here? What's going to happen if the discount rate increase?
B,
Which one, sorry?
the second one.
Yes, it's the second one is the answer. Why is the second one? Because obviously discount rate is going to have impact. So the first one is incorrect. Second one, discount rate and internal rate required will increase. Well, the discount is the internal rate of return, so that doesn't make sense at all. So it's eliminated. And the last one is the next one is C. If you have to check the present value of the future flow will increase if the discount rate increase. We saw that the opposite effect is if the discount rate increase, the present value of the future cash flow will actually decrease. So if we eliminate this as wrong, this one is wrong, the only correct one become B. And let's think about it. If the discount rate increase, the annual cash inflow need to increase in order to retain the same present value. Let's check if that actually is true. How we can do that? Well, we have to play with the form. That's why that's why you have the Excel spreadsheets. That's why you have the formula. So let's say our rate was 6%. At 6%, we're getting 11,362, right? So now let's check this. If we increase to 7, now we're playing with the number, copy and paste. Let me paste this. Now this is our benchmark, 11,362, when we have 6%. If we increase the percent to 10, you can see the present value went down. So the question is, how can we bring it back to 11,362? Well, we have to increase something in terms of cash. So if we get, let's say, 25,000, okay, so 24,000, 24,500. So now you can see, in order to get the same amount, but let's get here. My annual payment, when I'm getting this one, are 21,500. If I want to stay at 11, I have to increase my annual payment. If my annual payment getting 24,600, that's too much. 24,550. Too much. 24,520. Oh, there we go. I'm getting 24,525. So that's how we're gonna increase the rate, right? If you want to keep the same net present value, once increase the discount rate, originally was 6%, I believe. If I increase the rate, I have to start increasing my annual payments. That's the only way I to keep the net present value the same. So basically, that's what the answer says. The annual cash inflow will need to increase in order to retain the same present value, which we saw that's true. Now, what we're going to do we have intangible benefits. Which are the intangible benefits? To avoid rejecting the project, we have two possible approaches. First one is to calculate the net present value, ignoring the intangible benefits. Then, if the net present value is negative, ask whether the intangible benefits worth at least the amount of the negative present value. And project conservative estimates on the value of intangible benefits also can be applied. Let's see what's this. Here now, the company is considering purchasing soldering electrical components on the initial cost $200,000. Net cash inflow are estimated at $30,000 per year. Useful life is 10 years and discounted rate is 12%. What's the present value? Well, we can easily use it in our Excel spreadsheet. And to find out what's the present value in this case. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab this worksheet here. I'm gonna flip it here, and that will be question 8 in my case. And I'm gonna change this one. I guess didn't copy it. Let's copy this one. And I'm gonna post it as a picture, and now I have the information. So basically, I don't know what's the actually I know my initial investment. Initial investment $200,000. And then I have the annual payments, net inflow I have my annual payments is 30,000 every year. I'm gonna get those over 10 years, and discounted rate is 12. My future value, there's no future value in this case. So in this case, should I invest or should I not?
Maybe not.
No. Yeah.
No. Why? Because we're not getting 12% return, right?
Yes.
We're not reaching 12%. Clearly, we're not reaching 12% return. Now, the question here will be, is there anything in this project that will make us change our decision based on something which is not based only on the numbers? Now, as you can see here, the calculation, we clearly, we're not reaching the 12%. But now we're expecting to improve the overall quality of the product. And because of the quality improvement, the warranty costs are expected to decrease. Sales are expected to noticeably increase when we increase the quality. And intangible benefits in this case will be the improved of the quality. So the question is, with the improved quality, are we going to be in the position to recover of the loss of the return that we have? So then we have two options. Well, we reduce the cost to increase the sales and improve the quality, so we can get at least 30,000. So we're gonna get that extra percentage that we're losing, or we can make a conservative estimate on the annual cash flow of those payments and calculate on the new scenario. So on the new scenario, we will assume that following estimates: sales increase with 10,000 and the cost decrease with 5,000. Make sense? That's the only thing that we consider here. Sales gonna increase with 10,000 per year, and the warranty costs 5,000 per year. So let's do the second calculation here. What we're chasing is, can we eliminate those $30,000 to bring it at least to zero? How we can do that? Again, we're gonna have here the question, which shows increase of 10,000 and warranty decrease with 5,000. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
Now the question is, the question in this case is 10,000 increase, annual cash flow. Initially we have 30,000, correct? Annual payment, what that we're getting. So that will be the cash inflows. Now actually this doesn't give me enough information. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make it like a logical, but with the information that they give me is like I'm gonna increase the cash. I'm trying to find out how to explain this one based on the information that we have. Let me go back to the slides and let's look at the slides together and tell me if you understand this one. So in the first case, we have this scenario when we have the net inflow estimated of $30,000. $30,000 because the cash inflow is 50, cash outflow is 20. That's we getting $30,000 cash net inflow cash. Now in the second scenario, when we do those changes, what's going to happen is the cash inflow, the revised cash inflow is going to go to 60, from 50 to 60, because we have increased with 60. And then the cost from 20 is going to go to 15. Does that make sense? Can you guys see the numbers?
Yes, sir.
So what's happening here is, let me copy this one. Let's put it in the Excel spreadsheet side by side so you can actually see it. I see what they're doing now, and now I understand what they're doing. They're doing it different, very awkward way, but this one it is, right? Okay, that's our initial information for this project. We don't need this information. This information is destruction. This is our original information. Let's put it somewhere on the top, right here. Now I can explain it. So, initial investments, $200,000, $200,000. From where does $30,000 come from? They're coming because we have annual inflow of $50,000, annual cash outflow of $20,000. So the $30,000 come from here. Now, what's happened in the second scenario? In the second scenario, let's move this one down. We're still using this information. However, something changes. What changes? The 200,000 is gonna stay. There will be no change in the $200,000. Make sense? Now the $50,000, that will be different. What's gonna happen? Those gonna increase with 10,000. Can you see it? Instead of 50, now it becomes 60. So we have $10,000 increase. That will be difference. On the difference, I want to use the same format. And my difference here will be this one minus that one. Obviously, I'm going to use the same format here for the formatting. It's $10,000. Now, the annual, as you can see, the warranty cost decreased with 5,000. So the new cost will be 15,000. Make sense? Are you guys with me?
Yes, Professor.
Yes.
So the difference here is $5,000 decrease. So where is the annual cash flow now? Now we're going to have 16 minus 15. Now we're going to get 45,000. So again, in this case, our initial investment was $200,000. Let's see if this is gonna work now. And our annual payments is coming in is $45,000. Interest rate's not gonna change. The interest is gonna stay the same, 12%. Sorry, the period will be 10 years. Interest rate is 12%, but the salvage value is 0. So in this case, shall we invest or not?
Yes, Professor.
In this case, if we increase the sales with 10,000 and if we reduce the cost with $5,000, yes, in that case makes sense. Why? Because we turn out from 30,000, so basically here we're not reaching 12%, but in this case we're definitely reaching 12%, plus we're gonna get more. So in other way, we make the project to have a positive net present value, or to reach the required rate of return in this case. Tell me, what do you think about this?
Salvage value because it immeasurable.
Okay, it is the salvage value, yes. Now, how are we gonna deal with if we have a few projects where they have the positive net present value, but we don't have enough cash to accept all of them, how are we going to deal in that cases? Well, in that case, we have to choose something else. In order, now having the highest net present value, it's not always the best decision. Why? Because the required rate of return or discounted rate can be different. So for that reason, we're gonna have a new thing that will be profitability index. So the decision tree here is, if the profitability index is equal to 1, then the project break even and the company would be indifferent to accept the project or not. If the profitability index is below 1, then if the company accept the project will weaken the company. And if the profitability index is more than 1, the project is going to increase the value of the company. So the question is, how are we going to calculate that profitability index? Profitability index is simply calculation between the present value of the net cash flows divided by initial investment. So in this case, as you can see here, we have a note that the dividend is the present value of all cash flows, both positive and negative, and does not include the initial investment, if we're talking about the dividend here. So now, that's the dividend of the present value. Now, let's see in here, we have to consider those two projects. Let's grab those two, and let's move to the Excel spreadsheet. Let's create a new chart here. Obviously, I'm gonna have to erase everything, including this one, including that one, and start from scratch. So I have my information, which is exactly from the slides. What I'm gonna do some slightly changes here, and we're gonna get it. So this is directly coming from the slides. So I have those two investments. First investment, first project, I'm investing $40,000. In project B, I'm investing $90,000. Net annual cash flow is 10,000 here, 19,000 here. Salvage value is 5,000 here, 10,000 here. Now, the question is, what's the present value on the first one? What's the present value of the second one? If we have to calculate it. They don't give us the percentage, do they? Yes, they don't giving you a discount percentage. So in this case, we cannot calculate ourselves. So let's rely on their calculation. And let's say the present value here of the net cash flow is that much, 112, and the other one is 110. So now the question is, what's the profitability index? Let's do some changes here. If this is the present value for the first project, and this is the present value for the second project, what's the profitability index? That's what we're chasing, right? Nothing more, nothing less. We're just chasing the profitability index. And what we said about the profitability index? Profitability index is equal to the present value divided by initial investment. Remember?
Yes.
So in this case, let's check if that profitability index is correct. If we get the present value divided by the initial investment, are we going to get the same? Yes, we're getting the same. So that's our profitability index in this case. And the next profitability index will be, it's going to be called the present value divided by initial investment. That will be 122.86. So that was going to tell you which project is going to give you the highest return. So in which project we should invest, or which one we should not invest. In this case, if we have we can invest only in one project. Which one you should choose to invest? First one or second one?
First one.
First one. Why? Because it's going to give you the highest return.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That's something that you have to consider, and always consider when you're making decisions on the especially capital decisions. So in this case, present value is that much initial investment. So the present value in here, you see the present value you're getting is 18,000. Here we get in the second project, we get 20,000. But which one is more profitable? When we get the profitability index, on the profitability index, the first one gives you the highest profitability. So for that reason, stay with the first one. If the projects are not mutually exclusive and if the resources are not limited, yes, then invest in the both one. But if you have only one option to invest in one project, then invest only in the first one. Let's see this one. This question here. Company is considered for mutually exclusive investment and only two can be taken. Only two can be taken. Which investment they should be, two investments should be undertaken. So what we have to do is we have to copy this, move to the Excel spreadsheet, and do the calculations here. Let's put this information here, if say. So we have the four investments. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I can do is project A, project B, project C and D. That's not gonna give me, that's project C and that's project D. I have the four projects. What I have my initial investment here. Let's put the initial investment. That will be 500,000. Then the next investment I'm creating 800,000. Next one I'm investing 725, 1, 2, 3. And the last one investing 625, 1, 2, 3. Those are my initial investments, correct? Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Yes,
So we
perfect.
don't have the net inflow, we don't have the salvage value, those are gone. But we have the present value, correct?
Yes.
Present value of the inflow, present value of the outflows. So the net present value here is simply calculation between, that will be a simple calculation between this number plus that number. That's not a value now. Okay. Let's trick the system. Negative 625, 607, and negative 404, 805, and negative 772, 809, and negative 897, 931. So I have the numbers now, and I can get those numbers. That's my present value of the cash outflows. Sorry, that will be not net present value, net cash present value of the net cash flows. Are you guys with me? Do you understand what I'm doing?
Yes.
Okay, so once we get this one, I'm gonna copy it here as a values. And the last thing that we have to calculate is the profitability index. How much will be the profitability on the first one? That will be the present value divided by initial investment. 132, that will be just a number, simple number. There's nothing here. And then we're gonna get those numbers. So based on those numbers, on which project we should invest?
B and
Project B.
Product B, definitely. We're chasing two products.
B and D.
B definitely and D definitely. Those are the two. A and C, no. Make sense?
Yes.
Even though it looks like the second one, no, that's the present value. All those trees are the highest one. So let's
So,
see if that's the yes.
so can you again tell me how you got profitability index?
Profitability index is simple present value divided by initial
Initial.
investment.
Okay, okay, sir.
That's how it is. So in this one, what we said, B and D. Why? Because it's the greatest, right? Okay, we got that one. So now the risk analysis. Now we have to do this sensitivity analysis, which will be, example will be using the high discount rate for the high risk projects and using the high discount rate when the cash flow happen in much later year. So basically, we're expecting more inflation and more risk. Post audit, what is the post audit? Obviously, once we start the project, so basically, you see, we're doing the calculation. We're saying, okay, this project is going to give us positive present value, or we're going to get the return that we want. But what's happened later is we start the project, then we have to check, is this project actually work in the way that we want it to work? So what we have to do evaluation, how well the project is achieved the target. And then we start comparing the actual results with the projected. Comparison with the actual and projected, then we most likely submit reasonable accurate estimates for the next proposal. And that will provide us with the kind of tool to decide which project to continue and which one not to continue. And obviously, it's going to show us how good we are on the investment, on the projection, and we're going to improve the future investments proposals. Now, the post audit, also including the using the same evaluation. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to either use the cash payback, either the net present value. Again, the difference is the difference that actually numbers are used in place of the estimate. That will be the cash flow, time value, timeline, and discounted rate. So give me those using the several outcomes estimates to get the sense of the variability among potential return is which one? How are we gonna call this technique? Is it financial analysis? Is it post-audit analysis? Is it sensitivity analysis? Or is it gonna be the outcome analysis?
C. Sensitivity.
Sensitivity analysis, yes, that will be the correct one. Let's go now with the internal rate of return. Internal rate of return is a method which we're using the rate which usually the owners of the company required. That will be the internal rate of return is the method which find the interest rate of the investment. And obviously we're using that interest rate to calculate the net present value, or where the net present value is equal to 0. So now the internal rate of return method is we should using the financial calculator, or we can use the Excel spreadsheet. In our case, we're going to use the Excel spreadsheet. The question is, at which point the present value becomes 0? That's the only thing that we're chasing. And internal rate of return of this example will be considering the purchase the front-end loader, which initial investment cost that much. Annual net cash inflow is estimated $100,000 each of the 3 years. The question is, what's the internal rate of return of this potential investment? How much we're going to get? So in order to get the net present value to 0. So what we can do is very simple. Again, we can use the try and error approach if you want, but we're chasing here, the only thing that we're chasing is the net present value to be 0, nothing more, nothing less. So let's go to Excel spreadsheet and see what we can get. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
Professor.
Professor.
Actually, I don't need this Excel spreadsheet. We can get rid of this, and let me get one that has a present value here. This one will be the most appropriate one. Okay, have my question. Let's put the question here and see what we can get. So now we consider the front-end loader with the initial investment. We have investment 244,371, which is going to give me payments of annual cash inflow will be $100,000 over 3 years. Now the interest, I don't know it. And what else I don't know? There's no salvage value. Definitely no salvage value. Now the question here is, what's the present value? And the present value, for example, will be, which will be the percentage here. What we're chasing is, what's the percentage here that's going to give me the net present value equal to 0? Means that my present value to be equal to the initial investment. That's what we have to find out. So one way is, as you can see from the approaches that they suggesting us, is we have 3 approaches. Let me post those approaches here for you so you can see it. Oops, no, that's not the one. I'm looking for this one. So we can use the financial calculator, option 1, or we can use what I'm trying to do here. Try to get those one and paste it somewhere else so we can see. It doesn't work. Okay, I'll leave it the way it is. For some reason doesn't work. Okay, those are the 3 methods. If we have to do trial error approach, is basically we're gonna start plugging here numbers until the net present value becomes 0. That's the trial error approach. So let's go with 6%. We're getting down 8%. We're getting down 9%. It's gonna go down. So 12% here. We go to negative. So 11%. Okay, so 11% is probably the correct answer. This is using the 3rd method. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, second approach, to use the spreadsheet application or Excel. So what we're going to do here, we're going to have the same thing. I'm going to get rid of this. Again, we're chasing the discount rate, or that will be discount rate. That's what we're chasing, or internal rate of return in this case. So we have the initial investment, which is 244,371. We got the cash, annual cash, which is coming $100,000, and over 3 years. So what we don't know here is the discount rate. Let's insert something, and we have the salvage value here. Salvage value in our case is 0. Again, we're chasing the net present value that's going to give us 0. That's the only thing that we're chasing. In order to find out now, we're going to chase something different. In the previous calculation, we tried to calculate the present value, as you can see. In this calculation, we're not going to chase the present value anymore. We're going to try to calculate discounted rate based on the information that we have. Make sense?
Sir,
Yes.
so present value or net present value is not given, right? We
Uh,
have to.
so the present value is not given in this case,
Okay.
right? The present value is not given. But
Okay.
what we have the how much we're spending today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So in that case, this is how much I want to get today, correct? When I do the
Yes.
entire calculation, I expect my present value in this case to be equal to that amount. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So if I get my present value to be equal to that amount, then my net present value will be 0. Correct?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
will be, in this case, that will be my present value. That will be my PMT. That will be my interest. No, that will be N. And what we have to do now, that will be salvage value, will be the future value, which we're not calculating in this case. We don't have it. So if we have to use the formula, which formula I have to use? Usually, I'll tell you from experience, I sometimes I'm blank. Which formula should I use? In easiest way to find out is go back to PV calculation and find out what we're looking for here. Which one of those we're looking for? Which one we try to calculate?
Rate.
Rate. So if we're chasing rate, then this formula is not going to work. But which formula we have to use now? The formula that calculate the rate. Make sense? So where is the rate? Oh, right here. So if I use this formula, I should be able to get the rate. So let's see. Number of the periods. Do you have number of the periods? Yes, I do have it. That's 3. Payments. I have my payments, 100,000. Let's put it as a negative now. Present value. I have my present value. Have to be equal to this one. Future value, in my case, is 0. And for the type is receiving everything at the end of the period, so I'm gonna skip this one. And I'm gonna get my rate to be equal to 11%. So what that means is, if I use this rate, now watch this. If I flip it right here, and if I use my exactly the rate which I just calculated, no, that's not what I wanted. I want to make it wider here. So let's go back to this calculation. Actually, I have to get this calculation rather than the other calculation. So C and Control. This is my calculation now. So I have my initial investment. I have the annual payments. I have 3 years. Now the discount rate, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this discount rate. Exactly from here. And if I use the discounted rate that I just calculated, it's gonna give me net present values here. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Not that one. So again, first you calculating using the Excel spreadsheet, you are calculating the internal rate of return, then you're using the internal rate of return to check the formula, and we're getting the 0. So whatever number I have here as 11, let's see how much exactly is. This number, that's exactly the same number that comes here. So that will be the second method. The third method, obviously, using the financial business calculator, the one that you have in your hands on the quiz. Let's quickly go to the slides and finish those slides. So that will be another method to do it with the trial and error method. This will be another method to do it. Again, going with the charts too much. Again, the easiest way is use the Excel spreadsheet. So once the internal rate is determined, we're going to compare the company required rate of return with the internal rate that the project gives you. And if the required internal rate of return of the project is more than the company required rate of return, you're going to accept the project. If it's not, you're going to reject the project. In this case, we get 11%. So basically, if the company requires 10%, then we're going to accept the project. If it requires 12%, we're going to reject the project. What's the internal rate of return versus net present value? Well, the difference is subjective, right? The net present value calculate the dollar amount, where the internal rate of return calculate percentage. And decision 3 here is if the net present value is 0, that means we're reaching the return. Here, if we're just chasing the percentage that we're going to get from the project compared to what we want in our company. Let's quickly get this one. The minimum expected rate of return from the project is also called it's become a very heavy chapter, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Again, remember, from this chapter, I'm going to test you only on the cash payback method with the unequal cash, and I want you to know the positive, negative on the cash payback method and net present value. Those will be the things that you have to take from here. This one will be called hurdle rate. And let's check this one, this question. Let's do this question together. So let's flip to that Excel spreadsheet again, and we're gonna use the last calculation that we did here. I'm gonna flip it, and I'm gonna pose the question. I don't need this part. This part I can delete it. And I don't need any of those. I can delete those one too. Now I have to push it back a little bit. Get rid of this and bring the question. Can you guys see the question?
Yes, sir.
Let's insert a little bit more lines here. So really, that will be better. So what we have here, we have initial cost of 426,455. We have the 5 years period, and annual cash flow here will be 98,500. If the company requires 7%, Will we accept this project? That's what the question is. Shall we accept this project? Talk to me, people.
Yes, sir.
Did we get 7%?
No,
No. How much we get?
4.99%.
Almost 5%, right? So shall we accept it or not? If the industry acceptable rate is 7%, shall we accept this project?
Mm,
Did we get 7%?
No.
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 Accept or no accept?
Not accept.
Not accept. Right? How much we getting? Only getting 5%. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to the slides and finish those slides. So in this case, we're getting only 5%. Annual rate of return method, that's another method. That's based on the accounting data, and the annual rate of return is compared with the required minimum rate of return. And in this case, we're going to have the initial cost. We're going to have the expected life 5 years. And the average investment will be 65. Why? Because we have the beginning 130, nothing on the end divided by 265 is the average investment. Now the accounting income is greater from the investment. That will be, so once we do this calculation, we're going to have the sales and we're going to calculate that we're getting $13,000 net income. So now the expected annual rate of return is calculated as follow, which is 13,000 divided by 65, which 65 is the average investment. So basically our rate of return is 20%. Now on this method, I'm not going to even ask you questions about it. So you don't have to worry about this method. So what's the annual rate of return pros and cons? You don't even have to spend on the pros and cons because again, I'm not going to ask you for those ones. So which is the base one? Obviously based on the accounting data only. And that's end of the chapter today.